The structure of the skin is very important in the ways that it allows the 6 functions to operate throughout the body, all over the body in the skin. The first function is protection, and the skin is made up of 3 layers. And the outermost layer, the epidermis, is covered in dead cells that are layered upon layer and full of keratin. And the keratin is very protective protein, and the dead layers, they shed off and they take most of the abuse from small scratches and microscopic battles that go on over our skin. And the next major function is cutaneous sensation, which is basically just being able to feel on your skin from different stimuli. And there are many different ways that we can feel. There's 2 main ways in the epidermis: the nerve endings, which pick up pain and touch and the temperature, and then the Merkel's discs, which take up deep pressure and continuous touch. And then in the dermis, there's the Messner's corpuscles, which are the quality of the touch, so like if it's fuzzy or prickly. And then the Ruffini capsule, which corpuscle, which is the response to temperature change and like pressure and force, and it also alerts the body if there's potential danger. There's the nerve endings, which are attached to the hair follicles, and they just pick up senses whenever the hair is moved. And then there's the Pacini corpuscle, which also picks up pressure. The third major function of the skin is excretion, and that goes through the eccrine gland, which is a sweat gland, the apical gland, which is also a sweat gland, even though that one's not extremely for excretion, it's also a sweat gland. And then there's the sebaceous gland, or the oil glands, which help keep the skin oiled, but they're attached to hair follicles. And the eccrine gland, the sweat gland, is the main gland for excretion, and whereas it gets rid of metabolic waste, basically it picks up the waste from the blood, and when your body produces sweat, the sweat goes up through the pores and out onto the outer surface of the skin, where it evaporates and those wastes are gotten rid of. Next, there's the metabolic function, which is mainly the production of vitamin D3 from sunlight and the way it the synthesis of vitamin D3, and it's basically through the UV rays, UVA and UVB, which cause cell damage, which then leads to P3 production, which is, it creates the genes for cell repair, and then the melanin stimulating hormones, which then turn into what causes D3 to be made. And that is very important because a lot of people end up with vitamin D deficiencies, and so that's a very important function. There's also the blood reservoir, which is basically the skin holds 5% of the body's blood, and a lot of this is held in the hypodermis, which is full of adipose and areolar tissue, both of which hold large amounts of blood for supply to the muscles and the skin, and it supplies for the upper 2 layers of the skin, the dermis and the epidermis. And then the last function is body temperature regulation, and for the nervous system, it's carried out throughout the somatic nervous system through the different glands in the skin. Again, the Messner's gland, Merkel cells, Ruffini corpuscle, the nerve endings, and the Pacini corpuscle. And the nervous system picks up that there's a temperature change in the body or on the outer environment, and it takes the information up to the hypothalamus, which then decides whether we need to warm or cool the body, and it then sends the information to warm or cool to the different parts in the skin. And so the skin functions either to cool the body by activating sweat glands, to again send water and metabolic waste up through the pores and onto the skin, where they use energy, which is heat in this case, to evaporate the water and release that energy, or it uses the blood vessels and it will open the sphincters, the precapillary sphincter in the blood vessels, which keeps the blood, allow it to go closer to the surface of the skin, and this helps let off the heat in the blood, Whereas if you're trying to warm the body, if the hypothalamus is trying to warm the body, it will close the precapillary sphincter, and the blood will stay lower in the skin level, away from the surface, so that you don't lose this extra heat. And those are the functions and how the body regulates temperature.